Go ahead, Sarah.
My name is Sarah. I am a freshman this year at UT, and I'm currently majoring in human development and family sciences.
My name is Jenny, and I'm a sophomore, and I'm majoring in psychology major.
Hi, my name is Vivek, and I'm a business major and also a freshman.
I'm Carla Galaviz, and I'm a sophomore studying environmental engineering.
I'm Sophia Del Rosa, and I'm a freshman here, and I'm majoring in biology.
So we are so excited to have you here. Can you please go ahead and state your name, your profession, and your place of work?
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor to get to meet y'all. And I'm so excited to get to talk to early college-age students about what we're doing here. My name is Danny Chelius. I'm a pediatric ear, nose, and throat doctor, and specifically a pediatric head and neck surgeon at Texas Children's Hospital. And so I'm on the faculty of Baylor College of Medicine, and I'm an associate professor at Baylor.
Okay, thank you so much. Sarah, you can go ahead with the questions.
Okay, so I have two questions. My first question is, how has your undergraduate education impacted your career? Does it have little to no effect, or was it helpful to what you do right now?
Well, that's a really excellent question. So my undergraduate studies, I majored in religious studies, believe it or not. I majored in religious studies at Rice, and also did the pre-medical requirements. And I think certainly my undergraduate education affected my career in many, many different ways. The science background was critical. No question, having exposure to cell biology and biochemistry made it easier when I got to medical school. And although I don't use those things on a day-to-day basis, the ability to understand complex systems is something all of us need to do no matter what our profession is. And so learning about complex systems, learning about, learning the science, learning how to approach science and how to think about it in general was very helpful. The number one thing I probably used for my undergraduate time, though, is just the ability to relate to people well. The emotional intelligence that I developed during my undergraduate time at Rice through lots of different student activities, coursework, just living through college, that is without question the thing that I most use every day now. And so any opportunity to either by studies or by activities to develop your emotional intelligence, your communication skills and appreciation for others, I think is extremely useful no matter what career you go into, particularly in mine. And then language. I tell my kids this, the thing I most use from high school or college now, as far as pure studies, is my language skills. I speak Spanish every single day. I wish I still spoke French and Arabic, which I studied in college as well. And I can dabble a bit, but I think that is without question the number one thing I use every day.
I think that's really cool. My second question is, what would you consider as some pros and cons to your career?
Pros and cons to my career currently?
Yes.
Well, pros, I leave work feeling like I've made a difference every day. I feel like I'm getting to touch lives every day, big ways, small ways, doesn't matter. And to me, that's the most important part of work, is being able to touch lives. And that's not exclusive to medicine, but it was, specific to something I wanted to do with my career. So that's a pro. I get to work in a field that inspires me every day. So when I was in my early years of medical school, when we were studying the basic sciences, I'll never forget the day that I learned about the very small protein that connects the tips of these little microscopic hair cells in your inner ear. And you look at this little protein and it looks like a spring. And it's called a tip link protein. And it's like a little chemical spring. And it literally pulls open a mechanical channel. And all of hearing starts with this little spring being there. to pull open this channel. And it blew my mind. And it was this moment that I was overcome by just with awe at the human body. And it was a humbling moment to see this thing that's a million times smaller than me, but that is responsible for hearing completely. Anyway, all that to say, there are times of cynicism in every career, and no matter what field you go into, but you've got to find moments during your studies or your preparation that you can go back to in times of cynicism. And for me, that's my tip link protein moment. When I'm feeling cynical, I go back to that moment and remember how amazing it is what I get to work on, the human body. Like it's it's mind-blowing. And that combats cynicism. And I think that's important in every career. But one of the pros of my career is that I have inspiration all around me all the time. And I have tip link protein moments all the time that help me when cynicism creeps in. So that's a big pro. I would say a con is they always ask you when you're applying to medical school if you know what you're getting into. And we all think we do because we understand what it means to be a doctor. What you don't really understand is how that's going to impact your family life and your extracurricular time. And I would say it is a constant battle to find work-life balance for any physician. And I'll include myself there because my family is my number one priority. And I think I do a better job than a lot of physicians, but it's still, that's part of being a doctor, is that that's going to be a struggle to find work-life balance, or if there is such a thing. So that's, I guess, a con, although I think it's a con in any dedicated career. It's not just medicine.
Thank you.
Okay, I also have two questions for you. So my first one is, why did you choose to pursue your career?
Thanks, Jenny. Great question. I knew that I wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and I thought I was going to do that. I mean, growing up as a kid, I watched my teacher mom, really directly impact kids' lives, and so I had this like core value of service was just part of who I am. And people always told me, you're going to be a doctor because you're smart, which is a prerequisite, but by no means enough to go to medical school. And I really actually thought that I was going to become an academic religious studies professor and study the history of religion and sort of the intersection of Near Eastern religion, so to speak. And I actually went to the Middle East to study Arabic because I thought that was going to be a big part of my academic career. And while I was there, I was sitting on a street corner and I was eating a shawarma, and I saw a man across the street begging. And so I went over to go give him my shawarma, and I saw down the street a woman with two kids also begging for food. And I was really torn, like, what do I do here? I've got one sandwich. And my thought process was that this old man probably gets less compassion than this woman and her kids. And so I'm just going to trust that I'm going to give this guy the sandwich and he's going to have this sandwich, And I went back and sat back down and continued my reading and looked up and saw the man walk over to the woman and the kids. And he clearly was asking them if he could come close. He wasn't like family with them. And he kind of came in, and you could tell she was a little afraid at first, and he like gave them half of his sandwich. And that is an emblematic moment for me of so many smaller moments in my life that just reminded me that I would not be happy reading a book, that I needed to touch people's lives directly because of that man's example. Because here I was stressing over the ethics and the philosophy of making the best decision, and this guy just did the right thing. Like there was no like, it's not a lot of mental gymnastics to do the right thing, and I wanted to pick a career where I could feel like I was doing that in a practical way every single day. And so that's one of the reasons I picked medicine. Although I would be remiss not to say that I picked a career that I thought would have financial stability in the long run for my family as well. I think that I am a risk averse person in general. It's part of what makes me a good surgeon. And I picked a career that I knew that if I did my career well, I wasn't going to become wealthy, but I also wasn't going to go through the struggles I saw my own parents go through to provide for me and my siblings. So, you know, there are a number of other reasons, but I think those are two reasons that a career in medicine was good for me.
Okay. The second question is, if anyone out there wants to be your career, what pathway would you recommend?
Study, for sure. I mean, like you gotta get the grades. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people wind up not doing well in medical school is it takes heart and mind. And if you come in without either well developed, you're gonna fail. And so I guess develop heart and mind is the most important thing. Like you got to study and get the grades and develop your intellectual processes and develop the capacity to function in the medical field in the future, which is going to be way harder than when I went in. But at the same time, you've got to develop emotional intelligence and a heart for the people around you and for caring for others. Otherwise, you're going to be a miserable sod in medicine, because if you don't have the heart for it, in times of cynicism and challenge, and when you're spending, time that you would like to be spending in other ways, you're not going to connect with what you're doing. And I see a lot of very unhappy doctors who basically wind up 8 years into their career, aren't making the kind of money they expected, and don't have another purpose for doing it. And so people who want to go into medicine need to develop heart and mind, and that starts as an undergrad. Well, actually, it starts way before that, but it refines a lot as an undergrad. Thanks for the question, Jenny.
Hey, Doc. So I also have two questions for you. The first question I would like to ask is, what are the greatest pressures, strains, or anxieties in your work?
That's three really good questions, actually, because they're different.
Yeah.
I would say the greatest pressure is, the volume of patients who need you. And there's constant pressure to see more, do more, make yourself more available, because there are that many people who need you. And so I would say that anyone looking at a career in medicine needs to understand that there's only going to be more need. But it's not necessarily going to be in the areas that people want to practice. And so there is going to be desperate need for healthcare givers, and for physicians in particular. But it's not going to be a model of financial reward, I think, that people might have expected a generation ago. It's just going to be an amazing job and a secure job and a secure life.
Job.
So that's, but the pressure is going to be do more, see more, because there's so much capacity and need. The greatest anxiety is am I missing something? Like, am I missing something about my patient? Am I missing something? What am I missing? I mean, that's all of it. If you're in medicine, eventually you've got to have some degree of perfectionism. And I think for most of us, like, anxiety about what am I missing is a part of it. But also anxiety about what am I missing in my home life? What did I miss in my 20s? Like, it's a long road to medicine, and I loved every minute of medical school and what I went through, but did I miss out on experiences in my 20s that my friends had that I didn't get to? I'm certainly enjoying my 30s and 40s more than a lot of them, but what are you missing out on, I guess, is the greatest anxiety. And then the greatest strain is, in particular, as a pediatric surgeon, I guess the greatest strain is when I have a vision for a child's health that I don't share with their parents, like that we have differing goals, opinions, and when I feel like I know the best thing for a child and their parents and I disagree on that, that's a
Yeah.
strain. Doesn't happen
Mhm.
often because of emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
but it does happen sometimes.
Agreed. And just a little follow-up question. How can you determine if you have the ability or potential to do very well in this specific occupation?
Ooh, that's a good question. I well, I think you have to get some experience, some hands-on experience in healthcare during your undergrad time to know if you actually like interacting with people through the medium of science, and specifically the medium of medical science. And so I did a lot of volunteering in college to just get it. I mean, like, you don't know till you know, right? Like you don't know if you're gonna like it till you do it. I was an EMT. I worked on ambulances. I worked in organ and tissue donation. I worked in some clinics. I spent lots of time volunteering, just doing hands-on stuff with people in the service area. And so I think you got to decide actually if you like service, if service makes you feel fulfilled, because I think most of us assume that it will, but actually some people find out that it doesn't fulfill them. They actually don't like other people, as it turns out. Like, doesn't make them bad people, it just means that's not going to be fulfilling to them. So I think you got to decide if that's going to be fulfilling to you. But even if it's not, there are other areas of science and medicine that might still be of appealing to you. And so if you just love the science, if you love science and discovery and new technology and pushing the frontier, there's a role for you in medicine. I had the privilege when I was in college of meeting and escorting General Norman Schwarzkopf around campus one day. And Norman Schwarzkopf was the leader of our troops during the first war in Kuwait back in 91. And so, I met him almost 10 years later when I was an undergrad. And in taking him around campus, I asked him what his best advice was to any of us. And his best advice was that he became a prominent general because he made decisions. Like, sounds simple and stupid, but there's actually a lot to that. He just made decisions. He took the best information he had and he made decisions. And if it was the wrong decision, he switched and made a better decision. And he discovered that over time, by practicing making decisions, he made more and more good decisions. But he said you would be shocked at how many of his troops never made a decision. He said, if you think about it, how many people in their life don't actually make big decisions? They just float along until the problem is so bad that they have to do something, but they didn't make a decision. They just were thrown into a decision. And I think picking a career, and particularly picking a career in medicine, can be the same way. If you find that you're attracted in any way to the science or to the service, and you think you have the capacity in you to dedicate much of your life to your work, as opposed to wanting to have scattered interests everywhere, then make a decision and try it. If it doesn't work out, there's 1,000 other ancillary fields that you could do that would be good, promising careers. And if you turns out you liked it, well, it's a great career. But as I said that, I recognize that I also said you have to be willing to commit a lot of your life. I don't have a lot of hobbies. My hobbies are my family and spending time with them and doing what my kids want to do, and my work. And I don't have tons and tons of like extra hobby time. And that's partially because I'm an academic physician, not a private practice physician. Some private practice physicians work really limited hours and they're happy with that. As an academician, I don't have a lot of ancillary time. My time is spent doing my work or being with my family. And so I knew that would be fulfilling to me. But there are other paths in medicine that would not require it. So I guess what I'm saying is there's not a single type of person who's going to do well in medicine. And medicine is such a big thing that even if you don't want my career, there's going to be some other ancillary career in medicine that's good for you too. It's not a great answer. I'm sorry. But
No, it's perfectly fine, Dr. Chelius. I appreciate you I appreciate you again for coming out here. I actually have to leave here in a second because I have class at 12:30.
Totally.
But I will go ahead and watch the lectures and figure out what my peers also said. But thank you again for coming out.
Yeah, you bet. Vivek.
Okay, we have two more questions, one from me and one from Sophia.
Okay.
My question is, what does your day-to-day look like? And if every day is the same routine?
No, that's one of the things I love about being an academic surgeon is every day is different. Like, I mean, in general, I'm getting up with my kids at 6 and exercising and getting up to my work or getting I drop my kids at school. It's important to me. So I've arranged my life to make sure I can do that. I drop my kids off. Some days I'm starting clinic at 8 and I do clinic until noon. And then I have meetings at lunch. And then I have clinic from 1 to 5. And in those clinics, I'm just seeing patients. And then other days I have surgery where I operate usually start at 7:30 and operate until I'm done. Some days that's 2 or 3 and I go enjoy my afternoon or get more work done. Some days I'm in the OR until God knows. Some days I'm lecturing at the medical school and teaching didactic lectures. I have fellows and residents, so I have lots of meetings with them to talk about their career and what they're doing. I'm on call about every 9 weeks, where I spend a week just in the hospital, much of the week taking care of emergencies and emergency surgeries and seeing consults on inpatients. And so one thing I love about my career is the diversity of my days. My days are not all the same. A lot of my wife's friends are pediatricians and they go to clinic at 8 in the morning and come home at 4:30 in the afternoon every day and see patients all day. And they're happy with that. And it would kill me because I like having a diverse set of activities to do. So my days are very, very diverse. Some of them are short, more of them are long. Some of them are really long, but they're very diverse.
I feel the same way. I couldn't work a 9 to 5, the same thing over and over.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead, Sophia, with the last question.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna ask, how does the work environment look like and feel like with other colleagues and patients?
So that's a really great question. I am very, very lucky. I mean, I work at a children's hospital. It's the happiest place on earth. Also sometimes the saddest place on earth, but it's with kids. And so it's just an energizing place to work. I specifically have a really cool setup because I'm part of a group of 30 pediatric ENTs, and we're the biggest pediatric ENT group in the world, which is part of being at a place like Texas Children's that is just a massive, massive children's hospital. And so because there are so many of us and because we have the supports of the institution, both in terms of our time and in terms of their financial support for what we want to do with programming, each of us is allowed and expected to become a real expert in something, like to really get deep into our field. So as opposed to my wife, who's a general pediatrician and has to kind of know everything about pediatrics, I, as a pediatric ENT and even more pediatric ENT here at Texas Children's, I am a subspecialist on pediatric head and neck tumors, including like pediatric thyroid tumors. So my background here, these are the thyroid glands from the front and from the back. And I'm a thyroid surgeon and I take care of pediatric head and neck cancers. And it is a very, very niche-y job, but I have 29 other colleagues who also have very, very niche-y jobs. And it's really energizing because all of us are really passionately exploring our interest and supporting each other in their interests. There are other places, like I have a good friend who's on another PD-ENT faculty where there's only 10 of them. They're all expected to do everything. So none of them really become experts in anything. They're just all jacks of all trades within pediatric ENT. They do all surgeries that we do. They see all kinds of patients. And that's a career some people like, but that environment wouldn't be as energizing to me as what I'm in, where everyone is presenting nationally and writing papers and everyone is doing really, really advanced surgeries that can't be done at other places. And I am so fortunate to be at a place that supports that because it energizes me. Yeah, so that's what I think about that.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate, we all really appreciate you coming to do the interview with us, and we learned a lot about being an ENT and your life, your day-to-day life. So thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. It's an honor to get to visit with you all. Good luck.